Are we live? We good? What's going on? Thank you everyone for tuning in. I think we're all back live and I've just messed this up even more. Can you guys hear me? I apologize for that rough start. I have had a small technical issue. Let me know in the chat, are we live, yes or no? We are covering the Supreme Court decision ruling that should be coming out any minute now. So thank you everyone for tuning in. We just covered PCE and inflation, PCE inflation and GDP. So I'll give you a recap on that. So let's see this live Supreme Court ruling. Is it coming in today? We will be covering the news for that. It could come in any second now. The stock market has just had a massive rally. So let's see what that's all about. Let me bring this up as well. Let me bring up the live chat. Can you guys let me know? Are we running okay today? Yes or no in the chat? Is everything okay? In the chat, let me know yes or no. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Are we live, guys? We are live for the tariff Supreme Court decision, which is approximately coming out in potentially 20 minutes time. Again, we're not 100% sure if it's coming out, but there is a lot of data suggesting it is going to come out today. So that's why we are covering it. Okay, let me go to your comments as well. Let me put the timer on the screen. Thank you everyone for tuning in. If you have just tuned in, hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Yes, we can hear you and you're live. Thank you very much. You can thank you, Yolanda. Always appreciate your support. Yes, here we go. I can see all the chats now. We're all good. William Bond, hey man, we need some good news, says William Bond. Lovely to have William Bond here. Zach Zay is here. It's time with the people, says let's go, Sensei, let's go, brother. Zach Zay is here. Human being Liz is here. Are we in review? Are we in a review or Sensei again? You are. This is live. This is me. Martyn will be live after me in about 45 minutes. Yes, we can hear you and you're live. Thank you. Google is going up. Everything okay? We're good. Google continues up. That is Martyn's top tip, and Google is continuing. They will delay it again, says it's time with the people. It's rule in our favor. We are going up. Vocal Foster, did you notice that last couple of weeks, every time 13 to 48 EMA crosses over the 4 hour. Thank you for that. What's going on with MONX? I'm not sure. Why is it really today? Hello, hello, Sensei. Okay, I've read through all the comments. Now let's get on to the news. If you have just tuned in, please do hit the like button. If you haven't checked out the newsletter, it's the first link in the description. There's a free plan. And today we're running 50% off for the first 3 people. Let's quickly have a look at the market because the market's just bounced pretty hard. A sudden bounce in the market right now. Again, what's caused that bounce? Let's see if we can get some information. Go over to Bloomberg. Yeah, GDP misses. Nothing there. Let's go over to Bloomberg TV. They're not covering anything right now. But yeah, we've just got quite a big bounce on the market. XRP bounced from our level once again. Twice we've taken this trade now. One was yesterday, about 5% up, and now another bounce from those levels. Again, those levels are on the newsletter. Ethereum bouncing hard, and the S&P 500 eroding all the losses it's made today after that terrible PCE data and GDP data as well. Gold is up. Silver. We had a top tip on silver today in the newsletter, so go and check that out as well. Let's go through some of these news stories. So the US Supreme Court is getting ready to hand down its decision on President Trump's tariffs with a potential huge ruling as soon as Friday. I wonder if people know what that ruling is and they are front-running the market right now. The court heard arguments last year on whether Trump exceeded his authority. There we go, that's a bit better. The court heard arguments last year whether Trump exceeded his authority under International Emergency Economic Powers Act when imposing tariffs on goods from virtually every US partner. The president has said that the US may have to unwind trade deals if it loses the Supreme Court case and warned of a complete mess if tariffs were struck down. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that the US has other options in case of defeat. Meanwhile, Trump plans to roll back some of the tariffs on metals, including steel and aluminium goods, as he and his administration seek to battle an affordability crisis ahead of midterm elections. The move comes after he faced a rare rebuke over his tariff regime, as 6 members of his own party crossed the lines in House of Representatives to vote to scrap Trump's duties on Canada. But Trump himself appears to be worried about the consequences, as the Financial Times reported that current 50% tariffs on steel and aluminium would soon seen carve-outs in similar manner to Trump's reductions on certain food imports last year. Trump, however, also kept up his threats in recent weeks, part of recent blitz aimed at allies that rival his bluster from early in his second term. Trump threatened to hit Canada's aircraft imports with 50% tariff and said the US will um, decertify all new jets from the likes of Bombardier, claiming Canada has used certification hurdles to effectively ban the sale of US Gulfstream jets. He also threatened to impose 100% tariffs on Canada over nation's trade deal with China. Meanwhile, Mexico is facing possibility of levies after Trump promised to impose new tariffs on countries providing oil to Cuba. So that's come from Yahoo Finance. Unfortunately, our newsletter is so much better than this. If I did the spent some time this morning on the Supreme Court decision, we were focusing on what was a bit more important because this is not confirmed. Was PCE, we would have a lot better content. But Yahoo Finance wasn't really talking about the Supreme Court ruling that is looming 17 minutes. Let's go over to Reuters as well. Let's see what they're saying. Right now, the markets are pumping hard. Let's have a quick look at the markets. The markets have just opened up on the day. Look at this, silver top tip today. Oh my god, it is going for it now, up 3.7% now. The S&P 500 now green on the day. It's actually higher than before. That data came out earlier today. Remember, bad news doesn't always mean a downtrend in the markets. It just means potentially where we're going next. Let's go over to some of the stock market. Hood up 2%. Microsoft. Google. Look at this. Martyn's top tip. Google up 2.4% this morning. We'll all look forward to seeing Martyn live in about half an hour's time. We'll see how he is doing and his thoughts on it all. MSTR up 2%. Fiverr up 1.6%. Enphase Energy up 1%. What's down on the day? We've got Vivo Power. We've got Rivian down 3%. We've got Archer down 2%. Joby down 2%. Alibaba down 1.5%. Pfizer down 1.5%. Klarna up actually now. SBCE also down slightly. Let's go over to our next news story before we get that Supreme Court decision in about 15 minutes time, potentially, once those opinions are released. US tariff revenue at risk in Supreme Court ruling. Supreme Court ruling. US tariff revenue at risk in Supreme Court ruling tops 175 billion. This is a terrible headline from Reuters. Guys, I haven't read from other people's news sources for a while. I mean, obviously, I read it and then collate my own information, but what is going on? This title is weird. US tariff revenue at risk in Supreme Court ruling tops 175 billion. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, let's see if their details are a bit better. US court could rule as early as Friday as Trump's emergency tariffs. Penn Wharton estimates based on forecasting model using tariffs rates by country product import data. Refunds of 175 billion could top annual outlays of transportation justice departments. Washington, February the 20th. More than 175 billion in US tariff collections are at risk of having to be refunded if the US Supreme Court rules against President Trump's broad emergency tariffs. Penn Wharton Budget Models economists said on Friday. Their estimate, produced at a request from Reuters, was derived from a ground-up forecasting model that uses tariff rates by product and country for specific duties imposed by tariffs, including those under their international emergency economic powers, said Lisa Bowler, senior economist for Penn Wharton Budget Model, a non-partisan physical research group at the University of Pennsylvania. The US Supreme Court could rule on the legitimacy of the IEEPA based tariffs as early as Friday. Their opinions will be released in about 13 minutes' time. Du-du-du-du. If they are struck down, importers, so the people bringing it in, are expected to scramble for refunds from the US Customs and Border Protection Agency as import duties paid over the past year. They will be very happy about that, wouldn't they? Trump has, and that's American businesses will be happy about that. Trump has touted the revenue generated by all of his tariffs, estimated by the Congressional Budget Office at about $300 billion annually over the next decade. But the estimates show that substantial amount may need to be refunded in the court rule. This is not numbers that Donald Trump says. Doesn't Donald Trump always say we're bringing in trillions from tariffs? 300 billion annually over the next decade. But the estimates show that the substantial amount may need to be refunded if the court rules against Trump. Refunds of 175 billion would exceed the combined physical 2025 outlays for the Department of Transportation at 127.6 billion and the Department of Justice at 44.9 billion. So if we do get this tariff ruling, American businesses that have been paying tariffs, they will love it. They will get their refunds. If they don't, if they rule with Trump, then Trump will love it. So let me put into a poll in the chat. Do you want the Supreme Court to rule against the tariffs? I know there's a lot of American businesses that would want this to rule against tariffs so they can help their bottom line. So do you want the Supreme Court to rule against the tariffs? Yes. No. There's a poll in the chat now. American businesses, what about the two public? What do you mean this way, D3 Gaming? American businesses. Yes, because American businesses, again, a lot of people get confused with tariffs. They think that that if the US applies tariffs and puts tariffs in place, it's China that have to pay for it or whatever. It's American businesses that will have to pay that money to the government. So yes, nothing will be reported. This is just a waste. Biker dudes from Mars. There is opinions coming out today. If you think it's a waste of time, then just put it on the background or just leave. We're going to see if it gets released or not. I think it's quite a big decision. Marco, leave then. Yes, exactly. If you Marcus Parsons, sick of this crap. Marcus Parsons, tell me what you're sick of. What have I done to annoy you? They have vague headlines and never make sense. Well, yeah, Reuters. I don't understand. This is why our newsletter is number one. It's not number one. It's top 100 in Substack, but it's getting there. This is because we just say it how it is, and we actually have things that make sense. That headline was awful. Short squeezing happening right now in the crypto market. Just check long short ratios. Yes. Seat here. Complain like it says Diesel Raider. Okay, let's continue with Reuters. We're about 10 minutes away potentially from that decision. The US Supreme Court, the Trump, the refunds are there. Alternative calculations. Bolter said that the PWBM model built for long-term revenue forecast cross-references US Census Bureau import data on around 11,000 product imports categories based on 8-digit tariff codes across 233 different countries. Guys, what is Reuters on about? I spend hours and hours researching the newsletters and putting together the deep dives every single day for our premium members. Again, you can get 50% off that. It's in the live chat. It's down below. And I do all of these calculations and I research all of this, but I don't waste the reader's time by telling them exactly how I've calculated every single thing. It's like they're trying to show off and say, oh, look how much time we put into it. Reuters, you're a million dollar company. You don't need to explain every single thing. You're just trying to make up some words and try and showcase how much time and effort you've put into it. We do this every single day. We don't need to make the read so boring and numbers based. What is it saying? Import data on around 11,000 product import categories based on 8-digit tariff codes across 233 countries and applies statistical forecasting methods that come up with about 500 million in IEEPA based revenue collected daily. As of Thursday, that model, just say that model brought up 500 million, is suggesting 500 million a day. And as of Thursday, that model estimates 179 billion in total receipts under IEEPA since Trump began imposing tariffs. God, they make things complicated. They don't make it easy for the reader. PWBM also extrapolated past CBP IEEPA customs duty assessment data as a share of continuing US Treasury customs release and came up with a similar estimate of 175 billion to 176 billion, he added. CBP last published its customs assessment under IEEPA based tariff. This is a terror. I mean, this is Reuters. They don't know how to write a news story. And other trade remedies duties on December the 14th. At the time, showing an at-risk total. I bet they've used AI to write this. Total of 133.5 billion since the first duties under law were imposed. I think I'm tempted to go over to our newsletter, which we did last time we covered the tariff decision. The Supreme Court is set to release opinions today at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. This is the definitive legal macro event of the year, centering on whether President Trump has the constitutional authority to rewrite the US tariff code using emergency powers. Beyond the legal precedent, this is a massive liquidity event. We are tracking a potential 130 to 150 billion in duty refunds that could flow back to US corporate balance sheets if the ruling goes against this administration. There we go. I didn't have to explain 50 things. So the constitutional conflict. President Trump utilized the 1977 International Emergency Economic Powers Act to impose 10% global baseline tariff plus reciprocal duties up to 50%. The power gap, the IEEPA, allows the president to freeze assets or block transactions during a national emergency. It has never been used to impose broad revenue generating tariffs. The Constitution explicitly gives the power of the purse and a tariff setting authority to Congress. The lower court record. Both the Court of International Trade and the Federal Circuit ruled that the tariffs are unlawful. They also applied major questions doctrine, arguing that the multi-billion-dollar shift in trade policy requires a clear mandate from Congress, not a 50-year-old emergency statute. So here we got 3 different market scenarios. A clean strike. The ruling. The court decides that IEEPA does not grant the president powers to impose broad tariffs. That could be them just saying, no, you can't do it. The result will be a 10% global base. A 10% global baseline and reciprocal hikes are dismantled. That will be a big blow to President Trump. We've just got a super chat come in. Diesel Raider, no matter the Fed decision, thanks for all your work. Thank you so much, Diesel Raider. Really appreciate your support. Don't be fooled by today's release. Also marketed in. Yes, he does because he's in the E branch. Reuters is scrapping AI and they proofread quickly and publish. Yeah, vocal force. I don't know what's going on with Reuters. Reuters put it together to say it's nothing new. Yeah. So the reason the reason there's a case of tariffs is because someone is against tariffs, and whoever wins Supreme Court heart win. No, there's obviously there's many businesses that are not happy with President Trump's. Many American businesses really not happy with the tariff situation. And the argument is unlawful. 2 courts have said it's unlawful. Now we're on the Supreme Court. Are they going to rule it's unlawful? Or is it going to be a simple ruling, which is option 1 over here, which is just it is unlawful and you can't do it, and that means that there'll be refunds, etc., etc. Or is it number 2, the status quo? This is what's expected. The tariffs are upheld. The ruling, the court grants the president broad latitude to define national emergencies and use tariffs as a tool. The result will be current tariffs remain locked in, no refunds are issued. Market impact, defensive sector outperformance. Inflation expectations reset higher as tariffs are now viewed as permanent, sticky figure of the US economy. Equities, high import sectors like retail and electronics likely face sustained valuation discounts due to permanent margin compression. There is still a very big hope that there won't be these tariffs staying in place. And that's why if we do get the final confirmation, then those retailers and those companies that import a lot and pay a lot of tariffs, they will permanently be discounted because of the clarity we'll get potentially today. The legal split, the ruling. I'm going to push this back because I know we get them every 10 minutes. So let me just move this back a few minutes. So we've got time to check the opinions. I'm also going to go over to the Supreme Court website. So let me put you guys on. Oh, let me go over to Supreme Court US. Home of the Supreme Court US. Let's go onto their website. Let's just see if we can figure out where the ruling will be. Filings and rules. Opinions of the court. Opinions of the court. Does anyone know where we find it? Opinions of the court. Oh, here we go. 26th. Let's keep an eye on everything. I'm sure Bloomberg will cover it as well.
I mean, the reality is I do think there'll be some number of jobs that are displaced. I think it is a smaller number maybe than some anticipate. We estimate it's around 7.
Yeah, let's keep an eye on it. It can be as early as in 1 minute time. So let's just keep an eye on everything. Option 3 will be a legal split, a partial strike down. The ruling, a narrow decision. The court might strike the global 10% baseline, but allow specific reciprocal tariffs tied to emergencies like fentanyl or other specific trade deficits. The result will be a patchwork of legal challenges continuing. Market impact, high volatility markets remain in a wait and see mode as supply chain lawyers spend months determining which products qualify for relief. So again, this was in the newsletter. We are potentially very close to getting this decision. So let's keep all of these open and see. Is that Prince Andrew in there? Oh God.
Plays out into the future narrative. Will we continue to hear different tariff threats, after we heard that they're making this other trade deal on the sidelines here?
Yeah, I think we can expect this to be part of that geopolitical playbook. You know, tariffs being repeatedly used. We've seen them being utilized even after last week to a number of other countries. But I think the key thing is that markets are really adjusting to this. I think they're learning a number of things. They're learning that firstly, tariffs don't have as much of an impact on growth or inflation as much as they had anticipated, partly because of very strong US profit margins has meant that companies can absorb it. But also that the Trump administration doesn't always follow through with those threats. So I think there's a number of things which are enabling markets to look through a lot of that noise, which has been the right trade. And remember, we have seen this play out last year, where we had a number of very serious tariffs being announced, and yet the economy and the market performed very, very well. So I think markets are learning a lot from last year.
And Sima, one of those latest announcements,
consumer prices rose at their highest rate since
a threat on South Korea, increasing that tariff from about 15% to 25%. Large implications there for automakers, pharmaceuticals. What do you make of that latest threat and how that could fall out into the economy here?
Well, it's interesting that the South Korean market hasn't really reacted very much. I mean, there was a knee-jerk reaction, which was very quickly corrected. as is the case with a lot of these things, we need to wait and hear what the details are. Of course, how if they are actually going to be followed through, there could be.
Okay, let's see if we've got any reports going through. The market is pumping right now.
Supreme Court decision on the legality of President Trump's tariffs. The court is set to reconvene this Friday and could issue a ruling on whether any president, may use the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to impose sweeping tariffs on imports from countries around the world. Prediction markets show the odds for a ruling in Trump's favor are at just 26%. Joining us from more Yahoo Finance Washington correspondent Ben Worschel. We've been waiting for this ruling, obviously, Ben, and there's sort of a range of different outcomes. It's not a binary outcome. So walk us through what the potential outcomes could be in the potential rulings.
Yeah, so the time to watch tomorrow is at 10 a.m. Eastern. That's when the justices will convene for the first time in a few weeks now. And so this is the first time we could get this opinion. It's worth noting that we also have decision days announced for next Tuesday and Wednesday. So this is a whole stretch in which we will get a few decisions. This tariff one obviously being the real central one here. As for the scenarios here, there's a wide range. I think one, there is a level of legal thought that the longer the justices wait, the kind of less dramatic this ruling can be. The idea being if they're really going to pull off the Band-Aid and rule against Trump's tariffs, they would seek to move quickly. And this has already dragged on longer than we thought. These arguments happened back in November,
like
so we're already 3.5
tariffs are
months
blocked
waiting for this decision, which was announced as being expedited when it came forward. As for the market reaction here, I think there is a growing sense here that whatever this decision is not going to be the final word on Trump's tariffs. These are about his, as you noted at the top, the IEEPA tariffs. So it's a band of Trump's tariffs, a big part of Trump's tariffs, but it's not all of the tariffs Trump's announced for last year. And Trump and his team have already announced that they're going to seek to replace these if the ruling moves in their favor. I think one note that is worth kind of summarizing what the market reaction is expected here is a height-based overreaction. This came from Pangea Policy, a height-based overreaction followed by a market come down, which is notable because that kind of works in either scenario, either a scenario that is favorable for the White House or negative for the White House. So a big market reaction in one direction.
Looks like tariffs are blocked. Looks like tariffs are blocked. Trump is not going to be happy.
There'll be weeks of reaction to this in either way. It could be a messy scenario if some of these tariffs.
Looks like tariffs are blocked, guys. We're getting words coming in. Let's go straight to Bloomberg. Why has Bloomberg on a break at this time? That's crazy.
Breaking news. The Supreme Court has just ruled against President Trump. It says he has no right to impose those tariffs.
Wow,
a man in Chicago
wow.
saves a baby along the waterfront.
Leo Cundiff cannot swim, but that did not stop him from jumping into Lake Michigan when a gust of wind kicked in and he heard a mother screaming that her baby in a stroller was blown into the water. He says he and the 8-month-old dipped underwater a few times.
There was one moment where I was like, I don't know how much longer I'm going to hold on. So I just kind of grabbed her hand and just rubbed her hand a little.
He fought to keep the baby above water until others rushed in to help and pulled them both.
They've just given us breaking news and then they've gone off it. Let's see what happens. The decision is in. It is illegal. It is illegal. The markets are all over the place right now. The decision is actually in. So that person who said it's going to be a nothing burger, look at this. We covered it for a reason. The decision is in. They have been ruled as illegal. Let's see Trump's reaction. He'll be reacting any second now.
This is breaking news from Bloomberg.
Breaking news. We've got tariffs that have been ruled illegal. Here we go.
Live here in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio, streaming live on YouTube and Bloomberg.com. We have some breaking news. The U.S. Supreme Court struck down President Donald Trump's sweeping global tariffs, undercutting his signature economic policy and delivering his biggest legal defeat since he returned to the White House. Tyler Kendall, Bloomberg News White House correspondent, joins us here, Washington correspondent. Tyler, give us the latest on what we know about this Supreme Court ruling.
So it appears that the court in a 6-3 decision struck down President Trump's tariffs, those broad-based ones that have to do with IEEPA, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. The president put forward IEEPA tariffs on 2 accounts. One was those fentanyl-related tariffs related to Canada, Mexico, and in part on China. And then the other were the more broad-based ones, where he cited persistent trade imbalances. Now, we're still going through this. Cases coming in real time right now to figure out the two questions that were in front of the court. One was, does President Trump actually have the authority to invoke IEEPA to impose tariffs? Because this has never been done before. This is typically a federal authority that is used to invoke sanctions. So the question here is whether or not he circumvented Congress. The other question was about whether or not he actually invoked IEEPA correctly, if he's able to, by declaring these national emergencies. Did those national emergencies related to fentanyl, related to these trade imbalances, reach a legal standard of what is known as an unusual and extraordinary threat, that the president would have this authority to impose a tariff, a regulation of commerce in this way to achieve his objectives. We're still reading through this, but it appears that we have one at least dissenting opinion was from Kavanaugh, of course, Brett Kavanaugh, who was nominated under President Trump, who says, quote, "The court says nothing today about whether, and if so, how the government should go about returning the billions of dollars that it has collected from importers, but that process is likely to be a mess, as was acknowledged at oral argument." So that's going to be the entire next phase of this.
It doesn't seem to matter to investors, at least for the moment. You look at the S&P 500, it did shoot up. It's come back a little bit, but what's notable here, Paul, is that the best performing group among 24 groups is the consumer durable and apparels group. Lululemon, for instance, jumping about 5% right at the open. It's paired some of that advance to 2.4%. Lululemon, along with other companies, presumably hurt by these tariffs, would benefit, therefore, with the removal of these tariffs, although, as Tyler made clear, it's not clear whether there would be a refund or how that would even be put together.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of reading some of the Bloomberg headlines. Supreme Court does not address eligibility for tariff refunds. And Bloomberg News also reporting that hundreds of tariff refund lawsuits pending in U.S. trade court. So, Tyler, this seems like that's where the rubber meets the road, to the extent that anybody's going to try to get a tariff relief or tariff refunds. It's not going to be easy, at least at this stage.
Well, if you want to hear a pretty startling statistic, IEEPA tariffs have been collected from more than 301,000 importers. Wow. And every company that wants a refund would need a distinct claim in court. Perhaps we'll likely see a class action lawsuit that could maybe put this a little bit more broad-based. But when we're looking at just the massive amount of revenue that was raised by these IEEPA tariffs alone, of course, the Trump administration has other tariff authorities that are already in place, Section 232 related to national security, for example. But those IEEPA broad-based tariffs brought in last year more than $134 billion for the U.S. government. So it's going to be a complicated process. It likely would leave the question of refunds to a lower court, most likely the Court of International Trade, which first took up this case. There's a few different wonky points that I had written down here on how this could ultimately end up happening. One thing to know is that there's something known as the liquidation process, which basically is the statute of limitation that a company can ask for its money back. That's 314 days. So some of those tariffs imposed on China have actually been imposed longer than that, so those companies wouldn't get those back. But by and large, I think we're still within that time frame for these companies to ask for those requests.
And just a quick mention, equities building on their advance a little bit, with the S&P 500 now up 1/3%. Treasury yields are higher. And the thinking is, with the removal of tariffs, would leave a budget hole that we know already surpassed $130 billion as of December. Treasury would need to...
Okay, let me tell you guys, I told you this is why we go live. A lot of people say, why are you going live? It's not going to happen. Well, it happened. And we told you before the fact, if tariffs are strike down, well, it's actually quite good for American businesses. And we gave you the analysis here, the clean strike. And that's essentially what's happened. Again, more details are emerging right now. But tariffs have been ruled out. Clean strike on tariffs. They are illegal. Guys, if you are watching, can I ask everyone to please hit that like button? Takes a second. And subscribe if you haven't done so already. So we got the clean strike. The ruling was the court decides that IEEPA does not grant the president the power to impose broad tariffs. Look at the breaking news story. Trump tariffs lives. U.S. Supreme Court rules Trump exceeded powers in imposing tariffs. We don't know exactly how those refunds are going to occur, but the result is the global 10% baseline. It's illegal and it has to be dismantled. What's the market impact? Broad risk on sentiment. Important to see immediate margin expansion, especially what retailers, well, I gave you it in the newsletter. The retail and apparel, companies like Walmart, Target, Best Buy, Nike, Lululemon. Let's have a quick look at some of those names. How are they performing right now? Let's put Bloomberg back on in the background and we'll look at that.
To bridge the gap, and that would put some pressure on yields, upward pressure. And of course, if there are refunds as part of it, that would only make the situation worse. It would exacerbate these moves.
Lululemon popped up 3%
Tyler,
on that news.
There's still opportunities. There's still tools that the president can use to apply some tariffs, even if this IEEPA sweeping one is no longer on the table.
Right, and we've already heard telegraphed from the administration that they're going to pull on these other federal authorities. Some of them are already in place. We talk a lot about Section 232, those national security
Walmart
tariffs
building up
that
as well,
the
down on
administration
open,
has put
up since
forward on some of
tariffs.
those critical sectors, steel, aluminum, critical minerals, and a lot of those other areas that have been a focus of the Trump administration when it comes to countering China. We could also see Section 301 investigations. That's over unfair trade practices. We saw a lot of those imposed on China under the first Trump administration. Think allegations of IP protection violations as one example. And then there's some lesser known ones, like Section 338 that hasn't been used since the 1940s. I also have Section 201 here, tariffs imposed on goods that cause injury to domestic industry. There's a lot, but basically the crux to think of this is that the Trump administration likes IEEPA because that's a lot more flexible, it's a lot more broad-based. A lot of these tariffs have limits. They'll have to go away after a certain amount of time, and the rates can't go that high. A lot of these tariffs have a 15% ceiling, for example, whereas we know the president, in some cases, has threatened tariffs, 50% and onwards.
And also, all the different sections that you cited, most of these tariffs can't be imposed instantly. There's a bit of waiting time, and we know the president wants to declare something and have it kind of be in effect almost immediately. And the IEEPA tariffs allowed him that flexibility, as you put it.
Exactly.
Guys, if it's your first time here, surprisingly, it's today that we're running the 50% offer because of the PC earlier today. 50% off on the newsletter. We give you all of this information. I tell you all my thoughts and opinions on this. I tell you about my £5,000 portfolio challenge. I tell you the news every single day. We're going to be analyzing this and putting it into a newsletter this weekend. Every single day, you get all of this. Market headlines, top stock movers. You get the ad-free experience. You get my thoughts on every story. You get the charts, the technical charts every single day. You get the event cheat sheets for FOMC, CPI, tariffs. You get deep dive research, specialist emerging tech, weekly XRP crypto report. You can message me one-on-one DM. You get to see my portfolio, my £5,000 portfolio challenge. That's actually just started up. 20 hours of research for every single newsletter, and we put it out to you. The Portfolio Insights app and the training course, all is 50% off for 3 people today only. There's also a free trial, a free plan, and a monthly plan. So let me give you that link right now in the live chat. Let's continue with Bloomberg's coverage.
232 investigation on average takes 9 months to complete.
Yeah.
We have seen this administration in some cases do this under a more expedited timeline because they actually pulled on investigations that were launched under the first Trump administration. So they were able to make the legal argument that they already had such a bolstering of the information behind them that they could make the determination that this, meets the national security concerns or the unfair trade allegations to put on their tariffs. But to your point exactly, Scarlett, this definitely limits the flexibility of the administration.
Tyler, thank you so much. And it's just our luck that Tyler Kendall happened to be in New York today.
Quite the day.
Clearly, she was not anticipating this. I mean, we knew that this decision was coming along at some point, but the Supreme Court had passed up the previous 2 or 3 instances when it could have come out with this decision. Tyler Kendall, Bloomberg's Washington correspondent, on our way back to D.C. this afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to June Grasso right now, Bloomberg Law's host. She joins us here in studio. June, I guess this was somewhat expected from a legal perspective. Does the 6-3 vote, does that mean anything one way or the other, as opposed to maybe having unanimous 9-0?
Well, I mean, I guess it would be preferable for the people in the majority, for the justices in the majority to say, this was a unanimous vote. But otherwise, it doesn't
Guys,
really
there's one
matter.
newsletter left at
6-3 with the
50%
very
off.
conservative
I'm going to put the link in the chat
justices
again.
in the
One
minority.
newsletter left.
This was expected after the Supreme Court oral arguments. It seemed as if this was the definite conclusion. And so people were wondering what was taking so long. Well, what's taking so long is it's 170 pages. So it's kind of difficult to get through and to figure out exactly what happened. But what happened during the oral arguments was that you have this statute, IEPA, that no other president has used to impose tariffs. And under this statute, there's a word called regulate. So how do you interpret regulate? Does that mean you can impose tariffs or not? And a lot of the justices, particularly the liberal justices, harped on the language of the statute. What does it mean? I mean, this is a court that's originalist, and they're trying to interpret all the time what the words of a statute or the words of a constitution mean. So they were looking at this and saying, where do you get the authority in this statute to impose tariffs? And it was pretty obvious during the oral arguments that there were enough votes, particularly the Chief Justice. And the Chief Justice wrote this opinion. I'll just note that when I predicted that, because whenever there's a big opinion that he's in the center, he writes it. He wrote the Supreme Court opinion giving President Trump limited presidential authority to be, let's say, I'm trying to think of the right word, not to be prosecuted for criminal acts committed in office. He wrote that one. He's written like all the very, very big opinions. So when we heard what he said in the oral arguments, it was pretty obvious what was going to happen. And it's just a question of why it took so long. And I think Justice Jackson had said last week that in an interview that there are nuances to this. So, and we won't be able to see the nuances until we get through.
This is a major ruling from the Supreme Court. There's a lot to take into account here.
Pages. There are concurrences and partial concurrences. It's really, it's messy, I'd say.
It's messy, and that's exactly how Brett Kavanaugh, one of the dissenting justices, described the refund process. It was likely to be a mess, as was acknowledged at oral argument. Is it surprising then that the justices did not address the extent to which importers are entitled to refunds, that it's just basically kicking it back to the lower courts?
Well, I think what the justices try to do is write as narrow an opinion as they possibly can. So why get into an area they really don't have to get into? And that, as you say, there's a lot of, it's going to be messy. And so I think that that's the way this court operates. They don't want to rule on something that they don't have to rule on. And here they did a ruling on tariffs, a week before the president is going to make his State of the Union address. That's why I didn't think it was going to come down today. We were talking about it in the newsroom and why would they do that? And then they're going to sit there. Is he going to say something about it? He probably will say something about it while they're sitting there. A lot of them will be sitting there. The chief always goes.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
They'll be at the State of the Union.
That could
the chief
be
always goes. Elena Kagan goes. Usually Sotomayor goes. Alito hasn't gone since Barack Obama said something about Citizens United, and Alito was shaking his head back and forth. So he hasn't been there, but maybe he'll be there for this. I don't know. Justice Gorsuch has gone, Justice Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett. So a lot of them do go. So it'll be interesting to watch and to see whether any statements are made from the president about that and whether there's any shaking of heads. So I was wrong about that, and I admit it. So this came as a surprise this morning, even though the decision itself, what they didn't come as a surprise.
Yeah, if anything.
Wow. This is going to take a lot of unpacking. The refunds are going to be crazy. The refunds are going to be a headache to give back. In theory, it's good because remember when the reciprocal tariffs came through, the markets crashed. In theory, we're basically going against that now. So the markets should pump, and that's what we said. They are pumping. Someone's just asked, Kimberly's asked an amazing question. Will all those companies now not come to the US with their plant facilities? Well, they don't really need to, do they? I imagine the ones that some will, some won't. So that's not great for the US as an economy. Wow, so much to unpack. If you've just tuned in, we've just got news that the Trump tariffs are the U.S. Supreme Court rules the Trump exceeded powers for imposing tariffs. I'm keeping an eye on Trump's Truth Social. We can still be posting there. I am going to end the show and send it to Martyn as well, so he can continue the coverage of the story. But this is a major story. It will take a while to unpack. I expect a bit of a risk-on rally at this point in time, like I outlined in the newsletter. Again, we give all of these insights in the newsletter. Guys, if it is your first time here, let me just quickly describe to you why I started the newsletter and the training course. 8 years ago, I started charting. I spent thousands on charting. I took every course you could, the rubbish ones, the good ones. I then started doing it myself. That's probably where I learned the most. I understood that a lot of people are just trying to scam people, fake chart courses, use this indicator, use this AI thing. That's all rubbish. Essentially, I learned that lesson. I started being profitable with charting, but then I was missing one key thing, which was knowing the news and understanding the market. So then I understood I had to cover the news and read the news. So I was reading the Financial Times every day, The Economist, the news stories every single day. But then I realized, as we saw today, or before we got the decision, that all of these news sources are pretty bad. They are sponsored, they're written by AI, they're full of ads, it's annoying, and they tell you too much. Anyway, so I've combined those two things. A year ago, I quit my job to do this for you guys. A newsletter every single day. You need to know what's going on. When I combined charts and the news, I was a very profitable trader, an investor. Not just a trader. Investing is actually more important than trading. And what I did and what I've done is I've combined the news. So every single day you get the top 5 news stories. Everything you need to know about the market. You don't need more, you don't need less. The 5 things clearly laid out, no ads. I put it in the newsletter. You also get my thoughts on each of those stories. You get a brief. So every single morning, 2 hours before the opening bell, you get this. A quick brief. You can just look at it in 1 minute and see the top stories of the day. Then you get the deep dives. That's whether it's a cheat sheet for a tariff event, how to play it, how to understand it, or if it's a macro event like inflation data this morning. We had a full cheat sheet for you guys. Let me just give you this is from this morning, just this morning, the PCE day cheat sheet. We told you what you need to know about right now, what to look at, the numbers. Core PCE came out from inflation. I told you what to look at. The charts are there. If it comes in this way, this is what it means. If it comes in hot, this is what it means. Then GDP, I did the same thing. Every single time there's a big event, we give you the cheat sheet for it. That's in the newsletter. You also get an ad-free experience, no ads. There's event cheat sheets for FOMC, CPI, Japan carry trades, tariffs. You get deep research every single day. We look at specialist emerging tech. We have a weekly XRP crypto report. You get one-on-one DM access. You can message me at any time. You get financial planning tools such as the budget planner, debt planner. That's hopefully launching next weekend. You get the private community where I share my ideas when I'm buying crypto, just like I did last week at the 200-day moving average made 30% in a day. I posted that on the private community. You get the chart training course, that all of the rubbish stuff out there that tells you can get rich quick. It's not the reality. I'm telling you exactly everything you need to know about charts in a 2-hour video. So if you want all of that, coincidentally, today we were running PC and we had a 50% offer. So I'm going to give that to everyone. There's only one space left for that. So again, who's going to be that lucky winner? We will see. There it is. Oh, Marsh just said the newsletter is great. Thank you so much. So again, this is only funded by you guys. This is how we basically reinvest most of the money and then make a little bit of a living off it as well. For the newsletter, it's funded by you guys. So again, no big corporate sponsors. I don't want to take corporate sponsors. I won't take corporate sponsors because they will make me write in specific ways and make me write about specific stuff. So go and grab it, 50% off. You get all of that information. If you don't like it, you can always cancel it. There's also a free trial in the description below as well. I'll give you the free trial link. If you prefer a free trial, there's a free trial. There's also a completely free newsletter as well. If you click on it, you can go free and you get the free stuff. There's also a monthly plan. Go and check it out. Now I'm going to send you over to Martyn. My final thoughts on this are, this is a crazy ruling. I really need to digest it a bit more. I do think it's going to be risk on for a while. That is quite good in terms of all those retailers that don't have to pay tariffs anymore, those American businesses. And remember, when tariffs came into play, the markets crash. When tariffs go away, the market should indeed rally. There's a lot more to unpack with refunds, and we'll see Donald Trump's reaction and how this causes potentially uncertainty in the market, which obviously isn't good. Anyway, we will We will analyze this more. Martyn will be live later. I'll be putting it more into my newsletter. Unfortunately, I do have to end the stream and go pick up my wife. We have been live for about a lot extra than we normally do on a day, and I didn't take this into account. So let me give you Martyn's link of potentially the next show. This is the next show from Martyn. I'm putting it in the chat. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Go and check out the newsletter, whether it's a free, monthly, or yearly plan. Look at the markets now heading up. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you have just tuned into the show for the first time, do hit the like button, subscribe. If you haven't seen the newsletter yet, there's a free plan, paid plan, and there's a 50% discount in the live chat. Until next time, take care of yourselves. There's a link for Martyn's show pinned to the top. Take care of yourselves and each other.